Welcome. It's History Tea Time Live. Today, we've got a few history anniversaries to go through, which has given us lots to talk about. So that's going to be what we'll aim for today. Sorry, let me just get this started on Instagram as well. We've got quite a few this week. So let's get going on that. Well, Instagram will have to sort itself out as it wants to. So this week, Queen Anne becomes the last Stuart monarch. Should she have been? Let's talk about that. Henry VIII's near miss. So he had a few jousting accidents. We're going to talk about his first one, and this was really close. Rizzio, David Rizzio was murdered in this week in front of a heavily pregnant Mary Queen of Scots. So we're going to talk about that because we've got the anniversary of that. And it would be remiss of me to go by a week without talking about the Georgians. I also have some news about a visit to Acton Court, which is an incredible place and open very rarely to the public. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that and also let you know what is going on in History After Dark later. So let's get started. So welcome. I mean, if you love British history, you are definitely in the right place. I hope you think you are. Lisa's got her cuppa. Me too. This is Tea Time History Chat. Brian, yes, I'm doing very well today. Thank you. How is everybody? Where are you watching from? Nordic Queen. Over there, Nora, of course. Nice to see you too. Elisa is in Mexico. Anyone else got snow? Pop in the chat and an emoji what the weather is like where you are. We have snow. Where are we? March. It shouldn't be a surprise, but some years we get a whole year with no snow, and then we get this in March. So Catherine, hi. My Wednesday is going very well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lisa's in Northamptonshire. Georgia is Alabama. I saw someone else say Florida. Yeah, Red Pat, Toronto. You know, snow. A history dude over in Montreal. Yeah, too much snow. Snow in Northants where Lisa is. Amarillo, Texas. Cindy, hi. 80 degrees in Florida. Yeah. Yeah. Nordic Queen has some Earl Grey, beautiful. Barbara. Oh, they were coming up lovely and fast now. Alpharetta, is that how you say it? Beautifully spring. Oh, beautiful sunny spring day. And it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Barbara. I hope you're having a lovely day. Thank you for joining me for part of it. David, tons of snow in Canada. Yeah, you guys know what to do with snow, don't you? Kansas, it's raining. Innsbruck in Austria, no snow. We have your snow. We have the snow. Isn't ski season and all that supposed to be starting soon? I don't know if people go to Innsbruck for skiing. Heidi, hi, watching on YouTube. Ready for some history chat in the Netherlands? Also have a little snow. And Catherine, expecting snow at 4 at the northwest. I think we're supposed to be, Cornwall's just a little cold at the moment. M Valley Man, San Francisco just has rain. Yeah, I think I do prefer snow to rain, actually. So, and Jinsak is in Kentucky. So apparently we're getting snow, and I think we're supposed to be getting snow into the weekend. So who knows? Oh, NVF Salas in Dubai, lots of sun. Ugh. I'm jealous of the Floridians and you over there in Dubai. I do like the sunshine. I am solar powered, so we're getting a little bit into the long winter now. This is where I start to need the sunshine. Patrice, is it? Claire in Michigan. The snow is now melting. Nordic Queen, my reels are your reels are amazing. My favourite show. Thank you so much. Catherine, it started to snow. Well, you'll be okay, I think, for a bit. Doesn't seem to be sticking. Famous last words. Famous last words. Jenna, Rhode Island is rainy and cold. Diane is in snowy Iota, Minnesota. Is that how you say it? Yes, happy International Women's Day, everybody. We exist today. We exist every day. It's fine. Brian, you can't make tonight Histories After Dark. You'll be at dance class. Well, I'll let you know, or I'll talk a little bit, or I'll remind you at the end that if you are around tonight, we've got History After Dark, and I'll do a reminder at the end to join us if you can, if you're not at dance class with Brian, that is. And we're doing a bit of a roundup tonight. So we're doing a deceased, I might as well tell you now, but I'll remind you at the end as well. We have a deceased gits series over on History After Dark. And we are every fifth week. So after we've done 4 candidates for deceased git, because they are being scored and they are being put into a league table. So yeah, every fifth week we do a summary of the previous 4 weeks. So tonight we are doing, let me see if I can remember off the top of my head, Elizabeth I. So Elizabeth I did get onto our git list. The 40 elephants, the Georges, and who did we do last week? Oh, Henry VIII. Of course we did. So those are the 4 we will be talking about tonight, and scoring. Audience participation is involved as well. So, you know, we want you to come in as well. Regina, good afternoon from Hamburg. Catherine, loving Wednesdays for Had is good. And tonight we have an after show party, tickets for which are sold out, I'm afraid. So we might do it again at some point. Debbie said it snowed in New Jersey last night. Beautiful to wake up to, but then it's gone by mid-morning. Oh well. Oh well. Joanne, hi. How are you doing? Watching on Facebook. Hamburg, Regina, sunny but chilly, 5 degrees. See, I don't mind cold, but I would like a bit of sun. Mayfair Forest, which the previous roundup on Had was hysterical. I'm hoping for the same. We never know, to be fair, what's going to come out of our mouths. We do prep, but we don't. that's about it. So yeah, who knows? Brian, all women are queens in my eyes. Bless you. Good queens, because there's been some rotters. Ginsack, no snow, but 58-mile-an-hour winds. Lots of power outages in Louisville. Oh no. Well, I hope you'll stay safe, and hope your power doesn't go off. Isn't it bad how we're so reliant on power now for everything. Everything. It's not just general comfort. If your phone dies while you're out. My phone was nearly dying when I was out yesterday. That's a delivery man. He'll have to just leave it on the doorstep. And I was getting my car serviced, and so I wasn't going to be able to know when my car was ready if I hadn't been able to charge my phone. It's mad, isn't it? What have we got? Mayfair Forest, which is still looking for her crown. Maru, autocorrect won't put something rude in the comments. Yeah, you'll have to wait till Had, or maybe send it us as a DM, and we can laugh about it heartily. They're not giving up. Oh. Right, so what did I say we were going to cover today? We are going to cover, we've got some history anniversaries, so I thought let's go for that. It is today in history that Queen Anne became the final Stuart monarch of Britain, or England, Scotland, and subsequently Britain, under her rule, the United Kingdom of Great Britain. And people get really bloody pernickety about how accurate that name is. Well, it's on my passport, so, and it's on the Parliament's website. So somebody got really shirty with me about a video I did, and I said it's the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and someone got really funny with it. And for goodness sake, go and tell the British Parliament that they've got it wrong. Nordic Queen, how accurate is the Tudor show? You mean the one with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and Natalie Dormer? I mean, yeah, vaguely. I don't know. I haven't watched it for such a long time that I couldn't tell you particular bits. But I mean, they mix people up. They mix up timescales. They do some things well, and this is an area that people have different opinions on. But Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, who plays Henry VIII, doesn't look like Henry VIII. That's not something that we are bothered about, is it? Normally, we're not supposed to be. But also, he doesn't change figure. You know, he doesn't put on any weight as he gets supposedly older. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is as he's playing Henry. But I actually think that the way he acts is better than just dressing somebody up as if they're fatter or older. Oh, Melissa says Jonathan refused to wear a fat suit for the later seasons. I think that that forced him though. So you've got to remember, Henry starts out as, and we'll talk about him in a minute. Henry, because it's actually an anniversary soon of one of his jousting accidents. He is good looking. He's athletic. He's charismatic. He's fanciable. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is all these things as well. But Henry VIII becomes, you know, I mean, you can say there are elements of this already in him, but he becomes an out and out sort of tyrant, nasty, vindictive, moody, violent temper, you know, etc., etc. And Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, yes, refusing to wear the fat suit, but becomes unattractive. He becomes repulsive in the same way that Henry must have done. So I thought that was genius, actually. I really thought they did. I thought that he and they did that really well. Yeah, Melissa, they do take a lot of liberties. They do. It's a drama. I mean, I mean, I don't know about the Tudors specifically, but I know I didn't particularly enjoy oh gosh, what's it called? The Mary Queen of Scots. Or was it just called Mary Queen of Scots? I can't remember. Now John Guy was based on his book, and I think he had something to do with it. But it was starting to bug me, and it wasn't that there was anything in there that didn't have some grain of evidence somewhere, but it was then everything was run with to an nth degree. So I didn't particularly enjoy that one, but it's not that things they might not be accurate, but then, you know, as I sort of always come back to, we are talking about people and things that happened 500 years ago and putting together what happened from really limited resources, evidence. You know, what is written down now? What is written down now about something? And we've got all the resources. Somebody writing in 500 years' time about events that happened, say the pandemic, they're going to be able to take certain bits and put it together and say, this is what happened. And I would bet that if you could travel in time, you wouldn't agree with everything there, because we all have a different experience of things that are happening at this time, let alone trying to, you know, so we were trying to piece together 500 years ago. Do you see what I mean? So I think actually the idea that a historical drama, or indeed a history book, a non-fiction book, a non-fiction documentary is going to be 100% accurate. It's just not. It's not. So let's enjoy it for what it is. Nordic Queen, the Viking show is not accurate, but it fired people, yeah, exactly, into wanting to know more about the Viking era. That 100%, that is where good drama, enjoyable drama has such a positive influence, is getting people interested. And yeah, totally agree. So I watched I love Last Kingdom to learn about just to prick your interest about the Anglo-Saxon England, the Vikings about there was another one, Valhalla, is it? You've got to watch these things and think, oh, cool. Right now, I'm going to go out and find some more. It's a massive bugbear of I suppose I try and ignore it, to be fair, of historians or people putting out history content when somebody says, no, so and so said this, and it's like quoting a line that's said in a drama as if it's a recording of them. Yeah, some people take it very seriously, and I just think, no, just take it for what it is. Hi, Claudia. I'm from New York. I sent you a portrait of Anne Boleyn and Queen Elizabeth acrylic on canvas. Oh, thank you. I don't know where that is. I'm also reading The Six Wives of Henry VIII by Alison Weir. Do I know that book? That's one of the first books I read, actually. So David Starkey's book, I'm looking up there because I can't remember the exact title. I actually listened to that on CD in the days before Audible. And that was Six Wives of Henry VIII. That was ever so good, and because it was on the CD, and because I was driving a lot at the time, I listened to it over and over and over again. I think I could probably listen to it now and come up with the next line, like you can with a song. I think I could probably do that. Yes, Alison Weir's book. Yeah, they're the ones that got me started, actually. Good morning, Linda. How are you? The beautiful, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the beautiful, is it embroidery? What am I supposed to call it? This Tudor rose that's behind me. You might be able to just about see it on Instagram if I move my hair. No, it blurs it out. Linda did that for me, and I love it. History Biz, Bernard Cornwell always does well on research. Yes, and I must turn to his book. So anyone who doesn't know, Bernard Cornwell is a fiction writer, but he cross-stitch. Thank you, Linda. But he puts, I believe in his books, he actually says where his research, what his sources are, but the actual bits that are real that he has, he's got from fact. Melissa says that there was a fantastic travelling exhibition about Vikings at the ROM. I don't know what that is, in Toronto. I think that stemmed from the show. Went for my birthday. It was fascinating. The Vikings are fascinating. Anyone who was watching last week, my voice was going then. The legend, was it last week I did it? The Legend of the Dane's Skin. Was that last week? No. It was a few weeks ago, 22nd of Feb, I think. Did King John's Will and the Legend of the Dane's Skin. If you missed that, you can go back and watch that sometime. Amy, the White Queen, made me obsessed with history. I loved that. I love the dramatization of that. Jenna, if Henry had his way, he wouldn't have aged either. So in some sense, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers did play Henry accurately. I like that take on it. That's good. That's great. Nordic Queen, does Queen Anne, I don't know what this means, sorry, have her own tea? Sorry, you'll have to write that one again. I'm not sure what that means. Mayfair Forest Witch, if any TV show spikes the curiosity in people, inspiring them to reach for actual historical sources, then it's worth it, and artistic liberties they take can be forgiven. I actually think, and I don't think this is controversial, but it might be, that the higher interest in the Tudors over other periods is because of the amount of dramatization that we've had over the decades, and in order to be able to make it pleasing on screen, we know they've changed the outfits, especially headwear. We know they've created, Anne of 1,000 Days, there's that scene where Anne is chastising Henry VIII and telling him, that that Elizabeth is a Tudor. It's not, that's sort of taking on what we think of the Tudors of this, this massive dynasty that they're no more than less, in fact, than the Plantagenets, say, or they ruled for less time. clearly very unsuccessful at reproducing as well. And she's telling him that Elizabeth will be queen and she will be the best queen and all this. I mean, clearly that conversation didn't happen. We know the conversation didn't happen anyway because Anne didn't get to see Henry. But that is not that's a clear romanticization. Did I make that word up? Of what we wish would had happened, I think. But yeah, Linda, loved that scene in Anne of a Thousand Days. It's incredible, and it's I do think the Tudors have benefited greatly from being dramatized. Maria, did anyone watch the Tudors for accuracy though? They were all hot, and mainly Henry Cavill. Yeah. So I dare say even the biggest stickler for accuracy was not bothered. Yeah. Yeah. Nordic Queen, I love Audible. Cover so many more books. Yes, me too. Me too. What books would I recommend? I have, if you, I have started actually a book review on my website. There's only one on there at the moment. There will be more. So you can go to my website, which is britishhistorytours.com, or any book that I have talked about or would like to recommend. I have all put them all together on Amazon. Now, some people can get them off Amazon, some people can't, but it means you can go along to my Amazon shop and at least see the books that I would recommend. So that is amazon.co.uk/shop/British history. So you can have a look on there for I've got them in categories, and I've got all sorts of books that I'd recommend, especially if I've talked about them. So here we are. Thank you so much for these comments. They're brilliant. Mayfair Forest, which it was like this for me with Victoria, with Jenna Coleman. It made me want to do a fact check. Yes, and you got into a rabbit hole. And don't you find some of the things that you think can't be the true things end up being the ones based in fact? So yeah, Amy. Max Irons as Edward IV. Max Irons as Edward IV did a great deal for the attractiveness of Edward IV. Henry Cavill did an incredible amount for the attractiveness of Charles Brandon. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, not as Henry, I don't think, because he didn't look anything like him, and Henry VIII is such a knowable image. Is there going to be a spin-off of the Viking show? I don't know, but I have been told that, well, Catherine basically sent me a screenshot that the Last Kingdom has another series coming out. Now, I thought it was done and dusted. I'd grieved it. I'd let it go. I'd let Uhtred, son of Uhtred, go. But no, he's going to be back on the 14th of April. Very, very excited. Good morning, Tiffany, over there in Utah. It's been snowing all week, but I think it is calming down. Well, I just want it to stay away tonight because we have this, and then later on we have History After Dark, and then we're having a History After Dark after show. So I just need to stay away for this, and then it can come back after that. We'll get on to some of what we were supposed to be talking about in a minute, maybe. What about the last show of Catherine of Aragon's travel to London? Don't know. Don't think I've seen that. Oh, it was a park in London where it's supposed to be a rose garden with one of the Queen's names. I don't know. I haven't seen that, I'm afraid, Nordic Queen. Anne of a Thousand Days, lots of support in here. Claudia loved it too. A lot of people got into the Tudors with that film, didn't they? Hello, Captain Isa. Welcome. So I'm behind. Can one book tours of you? People can book tours with me. Yes, they can. Thank you for asking. And books, yes, you can buy books from Book Depository. So use my Amazon shop. I mean, if you can order them from Amazon, but I think people that aren't UK based, I don't know that Amazon works that way. I don't know. But if you can order them, I get a slight commission. The book's the same price to you, but please do use it as a resource anyway to go and have a look at what books they that I recommend. Oh, Katie, how are you? over there in Minnesota. How are you doing? Katie's coming back to England soon, as is Linda. So yes, you can book tours with me, because indeed Linda and Katie did last year and are coming back this year. I have 2 tours still on sale for this year: The Private Life of Anne Boleyn, which I may as well tell you a little bit about now. There's been a change in the itinerary for a very, very good reason. We are now going to Acton Court, which is one of the stops that was on the 1535 summer progress of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. We are oh, Melissa, she's coming on tour too. Hello. Yeah, so we're using the summer progress as a backdrop of 1535, excuse me, as a backdrop to look at Anne Boleyn from a different angle, really getting into who she was as a person. Oh, Linda says, tour with Philippa if you possibly can. Thank you. And Acton Court is open very rarely, actually. They're opening for a total of 3 weeks, and I don't think it's every day even for the 3 weeks that they're open. That's for the entire year. So now the building that it was owned by oh gosh, I've forgotten the name, but of a courtier who was just hoping, just in anticipation, that Henry and Anne might visit. They built an entire wing. Now, what's exciting about it is you have this, you hear of the series of rooms of the privy chambers going increasingly private, and so you have actually Henry VIII's bedchamber still there with his privy, with his toilet still there, and then the presence chamber. Have I got this all around? And the watching chamber. Either way, that you get from the most private and then to the public room, we're actually going from the most public room, of course, and you can follow through the series of rooms. Not only that, there is original wall paintings still there from when Henry and Anne were decorated for Henry and Anne. So for them, and they would have seen them. So I have I've put that, yeah, Katie's on this tour. Katie's on this tour. So I've put that in the itinerary. I've swapped out Thornbury Castle for Acton Court because I'm so excited to be able to fit it in and take people there, because it is so rarely open to the public. So that's one tour. The bookings for that tour close on the 31st of March. And I also have September, which is where the tour Linda's coming on, is the Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots tour. That is open for bookings. And also the Anne Boleyn tour, which is our May Anne Boleyn tour, which includes a visit to the Tower of London on the 19th of May, the anniversary of Anne's execution. That is almost full. I have 3 rooms left for next year. It's fully booked this year. Next year, 2024, is almost booked out. So if you think you might want to do that, then please have a look on my website, www.britishhistorytours.com, and you will find all the details there. So thank you for that question. Oh, Debbie, how I wish I would be able to come to the UK and join you. Yeah, Melissa is on that tour this year. She is indeed. You are indeed. Yes. Yeah, so if people are interested, honestly, don't wait till May watching this May's tour go, because it would have sold out for next year by then. What else? What else have we got? Sorry, I'm probably missing a few comments. Jenna says, is it Damian Lewis who played Henry VIII in Wolf Hall? Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it? Wasn't it? He looks the most like Henry out of all of them. Vikings has a finale movie coming out, Colleen says. Oh. Never apologise for not getting your comments quite correctly in the text. Gosh, you want to see what I write half the time. What else have we got? What about the prayer book that's been found? The one of Anne Boleyn and Catherine of Aragon. Okay, so I spoke about this a few weeks ago. Those of you, so Melissa is with me in May when we go to Hever Castle. The so these are the books of hours. So these are the prayer books of Anne Boleyn, which is always at Hever Castle. There's two actually. There's a handwritten, scribed book of hours, and there's one that was printed. And that one, there is, because it's a printed, so basically they printed these books. If you want to know loads of information about these books, watch my interview with Kate McCaffrey, because she goes into the actual detail of these printed books. So they sound printed. It's not like we have a printed book and we have exactly the same book. The basis of the book is printed, but the decoration of the book is personalized and stylized. So Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn had ostensibly the same book, but they are decorated differently. One, so Anne Boleyn's book is always at Hever Castle. The other book is at, I've forgotten again. You tell, is it the Metropolitan in New York? No, it's not. Jenna, I know you know. You've told me already once before. Melissa, printed by hand. Yes, well, so it would have been a printed press, but it's not scribed. Yeah. Joanne was on she was on the 2022 progress where we followed the 1535 progress, and it was amazing. Thank you, Joanne. Well, of course, we had the Queen's funeral coincide, didn't we, with it? So this time when we do it, we have got Gloucester Cathedral in, which of course we couldn't do when the Queen died, and an Acton Court added as well. This is, by the way, the Private Life of Anne Boleyn tour isn't being repeated, so that's another reason to get on to it if you're interested. Now those prayer books, sorry, back to those prayer books. Yes, in New York, Melissa, but I can't remember the name of the Jenna's probably told me down in the comments. Sorry, there's so many comments I'm missing. The Morgan Library, thank you, Jenna. So the Catherine of Aragon book is usually in the Morgan Library in New York. It's been lent to Hever for their exhibition this year on Catherine and Anne. But Catherine's book is only in the exhibition until June. I'm not sure if it's start June or the end of June, but it's not there for the entirety of the exhibition. There will be another book with another version of this same book, the book printed at the same time in the same place. But it's a secret at the moment as to who owned that book. So I'm actually really excited about seeing that one as well. If you are on tour with me in May, you will get to see both of those books, and they're not in the same cabinet, but they're not far away from each other, and they're always open to the same page so that you can see the difference in the decoration and the stylization. So yeah, so very lucky if you're coming in May. Fortunate, should I say? Lucky sounds, I don't know, dismissive, but I mean, the exhibition will be well worth going to. Do you know, there's another, going off on a tangent, but the other thing in that exhibition is a previously undisplayed, is that the right word? Portrait of Catherine of Aragon, posthumously painted, but never seen before, and the provenance of it isn't known. And the origin of it isn't known, so that's really exciting because they're doing more research into it. Linda says, I just heard that the sequel series to Wolf Hall is being made with Mark Rylance as Thomas Cromwell again. Oh, he was good. He's actually a stage actor, isn't he? Isn't he? Usually, I know he was on at the Globe. I was running a tour a few years ago, and there's a couple on my tour, and we finished in London, and they managed to get tickets for the night after we finished, I think it was, with Mark Rylance in a play at the Globe. How amazing would that be? Joanne, yes, really missed Gloucester Cathedral on the tour, but you did a great job shuffling around visits due to mourning and funeral for the Queen. Thank you, Joanne. Yes, we got some other stuff in instead, but yeah. So what else have we got? The necklace of Henry VIII. Symbols are so nice. Yes, I did. So if you look back on, when did I do that? Well, the 25th of January, I covered that actually. Nordic Queen, I would love to have you on a tour. I really would. Katie, did I hear that they're going to have replica coronation robes at the exhibition too? So this is the Hever exhibition. They have one step better than that. They have Kate Blanchett's costume from when she was played Elizabeth I, and they are on display. So yes, the robes, the crown, the scepter, the orb. Now, because the exhibition talks about Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn, it goes on to talk about Elizabeth and Mary, their daughters. So it's about what I wouldn't say the two women were bound, but it's more about what their similarities were, as opposed to always looking at them as people who were loggerheads with each other. And one of the interesting things that may not be as well known is that the coronation robes that Elizabeth wore, the gold, you'll recognize it if you can't bring it to mind already, but the gold that she wore, that gold dress, was worn by Mary I, obviously before Elizabeth. So yeah, so let me just put that up. So that's, yeah, that is there. So let's keep going with the comments. Thank you everybody so much for commenting. I wonder, Claudia, I wonder what Henry would think of his decisions if he could speak now. Sorry, let me see. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Myth and Magic. I used to work at Hever Castle. It is magical. Yeah, so I would recommend, if you are interested in learning more about the prayer books, Katie, maybe because you're coming, also no, Katie, you won't see them, will you? Because it's the wrong time of year. Melissa, though, you will see it. Catherine's, that is. But have a look at the interview I did with Kate McCaffrey, because there's loads of information in that interview. She's great as well. She's great, and she's doing a talk for us on the Private Life of Anne Boleyn tour. Kate McCaffrey is coming to speak to us on that tour about the prayer books. Melissa saw, yes, pictures on Hever Castle's Instagram. They're really good at doing that. Nordic Queen, yes, both of the books will be there in May when I do this year's the Anne Boleyn tour. Jenna says that Catherine of Aragon's book of hours isn't actually on display at the Morgan. At least when she went to the Morgan in April last year. It's not on display. How can you have it and not put it on display? Hello, Max. How are you? Sorry, I'm a little bit behind on my comments. Nordic Queen, I'd ask too many questions. So when we're on tour, by the way, we always have a tour historian as well. So it's me, I'm there as tour manager, so I'm there all the time. And Gareth Russell is my tour historian. And we can and do talk history all the time. So you are more than welcome to come and ask loads of questions. No problem. Were Kate Blanchett's costumes accurate? I think the coronation one is supposed to be accurate, yeah. Nordic Queen, does Bloody Mary have an unfair reputation? Short answer, yes, but only by way of comparison to other people who were worse behaved. So not absolved of what she did. Caroline, did you read how King Charles's anointing oil would be different in terms of ingredients? Oh, I didn't see the bit about the ingredients. No, I saw that it was being blessed, which is quite exciting, isn't it? So it's a bit of an insight into what would have happened. There's the blessing of the coronation oil. It's amazing. I don't know if I said welcome to the people who are on the catch up, but anyway, just thinking that. Thank you for everyone joining me live. And yeah, if you're in the catch up crew, then welcome. I also put this on the podcast as well. So you can, if you do miss a live one week, you can catch it. If you're on the live there, remember you can support me with badges on Instagram, super chats on YouTube, and stars on Facebook. or you can go to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Philippa if you want to help me out. Or the ultimate, because I can give you back, is if you want to join my Patreon, which many of you in here today I know are patrons. That's at patreon.com/British history. It's £5 a month, and it means I can give you back stuff, because we have a blog a month, we have historian interviews, which do go live on YouTube as well. But the difference is you can ask your own questions of historians. So, for instance, I am about to interview, in fact, this time next week, or Wednesday next week. Morning, Brianna. How are you doing? I will be interviewing Professor James Clark, who you may or may not have heard about. I've mentioned him a couple of times over the last few weeks. He's written a book called The Dissolution of the Monasteries and A New History. Thank you, Colleen, for the badge. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. And the book, to be fair, Maria knows this, is like this. It's this thick. So I listen to it on Audible, because you know what I'm like. If I see a book that thick, it's I might not pick it up, but it is so good. And the reason it is so good is because if you think about the dissolution of the monasteries, would you expect, for a start, a book that thick? Or do you think, no, we know what happened? It's sort of a summary. Katie, have a great day at work. It's a great it's something that's parked onto Henry VIII story, or Thomas Cromwell story, or the Reformation story, and there is so much more to it. So much more to it. So I will be interviewing James Clark about his book. About some of the bits in his book, but I would thoroughly recommend the book. Now, as a patron, members of my Patreon have been able to ask their own questions. So you're able to submit your own question if you're a Patreon of mine. And that means that that we basically do a full-length interview, and then I do an extra bit, which is all the questions that the Patreons have asked. That is a extended interview that only patrons get to see, and they also get to see it all ad-free. So that's just one of the benefits. Another one is 10% off any tickets for events, not tours, but events. And the next event coming up is the Georgian Online History Festival, which I mentioned last week. Now, that's coming up on the 24th of March. We have talks on the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. My idea of the Online History Festival was I was sat at, I was actually sat in a talk by Joanne Paul. If you've seen Joanne Paul talk, she's just written a book called The House of Dudley. And I was sat there thinking, how lucky, because of course, being the pandemic last few years, we've not been able to do in-person talks. And I thought, this is amazing. I'm so glad to be back. And then I started thinking, I'm able to, because I live nearby to these places and I can travel not too far and get access to these historians. What about people who can't? And so I wanted to do basically what I was seeing, but online for people. So we did the Stuarts Online History Festival in the autumn. That went really, really well. So we jumped straight back on, and we're doing the Georgians this time. So from the 24th till the 26th of March, we have talks going live every day. But if you can't make the actual dates, they're actually available till the 31st of May. So there's no problem with that. And if you're a patron, do I call you a patron or a Patreon? A patron on Patreon, you get 10% off those ticket prices as well. So you can join. We've got Tracy Borman speaking about Henrietta Howard. Now, she came up on A History After Dark a couple of weeks ago, because she is Henrietta Howard was the mistress of George II, and it's a really bizarre relationship. But she's also got an incredibly interesting life, living the eclectic life. You're late. That's fine. It's fine. Do you know, I haven't even started talking about what I was going to talk about today yet. So whether we get there or not, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, Henrietta Howard. Oh, Linda says the Stuart series was fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And if you didn't see the Stuart Online History Festival, you can buy it as a bolt-on to the Georgian one. Nordic Queen, the Norwegian royal family is close to the British. Do you know, I don't know the actual links, but that doesn't surprise me. Um, bye. I can see some people having to leave. That's fine. Have a great day. Have a great day. Um, uh, what was I saying? What was I saying? So, yeah. Oh, yeah, Henrietta Howard. Now, she built a house, Marble Hill, which is near to Strawberry Hill, and I'm hoping to go and see that soon. But Tracy Borman has done an entire talk on Henrietta Howard. That is for the Georgian Online History Festival. Gareth Russell has done a talk about the aristocrats of abolitionists and of Georgian Ireland. That's really interesting. Antonia Keeney is talking about the saints and sinners, the real sort of Bridgerton style of Blenheim Palace. That's really fun. Katrina Marchant from Reading the Past on YouTube, and obviously anyone who watches History After Dark will know her, has done one on bare knuckle boxing, because that is actually another one of Kat's interests, which is fabulous. And who else have we got? Anne Stott has done a talk on Princess Charlotte. And any of you who've been watching me for a while will know Princess Charlotte is someone, oh, we've talked about her on History After Dark as well, I think. Her death, Princess Charlotte died at the age of 21 in childbirth, or just after childbirth, and her son died as well. He was stillborn. And so with that, so George III was still on the throne. Charlotte was the daughter of the Prince George, who would become Prince Regent, who would become George IV. So she was supposed to be the next in line, and of course her baby son would have been the next in line. So with her death and the death of the baby, you wiped out all legitimate, all the legitimate descendants on that generation of George III's. So that's when you had this bizarre, farcical, really, run for getting married and having children that you saw with the sons of George III. And that is what led to Edward, Duke of Kent, marrying, and his daughter Victoria was born, who would become Queen Victoria. So without Princess Charlotte's death, we wouldn't have had Queen Victoria. I'll leave it to you to decide whether that would have been a good thing or not. Princess Charlotte, though, was absolutely loved. In fact, Anne talks about her being, she's the first people's princess, like Diana, Princess of Wales, was known. So we have Tracy Borman speaking, Gareth Russell, Katrina Marchant, Antonia Keeney, Anne Stott, and Illyri Lynn, who is talking about Georgian fashion, dressing the Georgians. Yes, we have Illyri too. We do. So at least we should. So if you want to get a ticket for that, I will post a link underneath anything I talk about on here. I will post a link in the show notes afterwards, but you can go to the Georgians 2023.eventbrite.co.uk to get your ticket. Like I say, if you're a patron, you get 10% off your ticket, and you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/British history, and that gives you 10% off anyway. So there's that. There were a couple of things I was going to talk about today, so that's done. And of course, we get the Hanoverians because the last Stuart monarch, so we'll get back to what I was going to talk about today. The last Stuart monarch is Queen Anne. She came to the throne today. Actually, the anniversary is today, in 1702, and that's because her brother-in-law, William III, died. William III had been joint monarch with Anne's elder sister Mary. She was Mary II, and so William III. So they came over from the Netherlands as joint monarchs, invited by Parliament to take the throne from her expelled, Mary and Anne's expelled father, James II, because he had dared become a Catholic. So actually, James II, when his daughter took over the throne, he was in exile, and the catalyst for this exile had been that he had married a Catholic lady called Mary of Modena, or Modena, I don't know how you pronounce it, and they had a son. So there you had a male heir to the throne who was going to be brought up in the Roman Catholic faith. So this is what precipitated this ousting of James II. When, by the time William III dies, so Mary II had died of smallpox, so she died prior to William III. When William III dies, you have people proclaiming James, the son of James II, you have them proclaiming him James III. So this is the scenario. This is the circumstance in which Queen Anne becomes queen. Now, what I thought you might like is the links that Queen Anne makes herself to Queen Elizabeth I. Well, she was just Queen Elizabeth at that point because we hadn't had a second one. So when Queen Anne comes to the throne, like I say, 8th of March 1702, she adopts the motto Semper Idem, which means always the same. That is the same motto that Elizabeth I had adopted. She was trying purposely to sort of evoke memories of, much admired in history queen. So yeah, she liked to draw parallels between herself and Elizabeth I. But like I say, she's the last Stuart monarch, because when she dies, there is no there's no direct, well, she has no heirs. There's no direct there's no direct Protestant heir to the throne. And I think I mentioned on History After Dark when we talked about this, there's supposedly these 50 people that are looked over in order to find the closest relative of Anne who follow the Protestant faith. And I'm not sure who these 50 are, and I would have to go through all of the family trees to find out. But it also could be a little bit propaganda to make it sound like the Hanoverians were so far away from the throne that they had no legitimacy being there. Either way, though, when Anne dies, that is when the Hanoverians, what we now look at as the Georgians, but of course they wouldn't have known that we were going to get George, because there were other people in there. There's a Frederick, at least, and that died before they got to the throne. But anyway, we can look back and we know we went George, so we can call it the Georgians. But Anne, it's under Anne, like I said earlier, that we get the unification of Scotland and and England and Wales that were already united. Controversial. And so but yeah, she's tragic, really, in that she's known for having a lot of pregnancies, 17 pregnancies, I think it is, and no surviving children. Her eldest died at the age of 11, which is just incredibly hard to even imagine. But she was poorly educated. The Tudors educated their girls. So to never think of history as a progression, never think of humans as constantly getting better and better. This is something the Victorians made up, possibly maybe someone else as well in history. But this idea of constant improvement, and because what that does is make things right. Well, if this is the case now, then it's got to have always been worse as you go backwards. Not the case. Let's have a look. So this particular example, the Tudor queens, Mary, Elizabeth, as women, were still very, very, very highly educated. Yes, see you, Maria, see you, had. And but Anne had not been. So Anne did her best. She did her absolute best at trying to help govern. She's the monarch who probably holds the record for being at the most Parliament, council meetings, because she really was trying hard. So she does become the last Stuart monarch. However, there is still this Stuart line, legitimate, but of the, in quotes, wrong religion on the continent. And why there was such a fear of Catholicism, I've never heard it clearly and accurately explained, but I think it's a lot to do with giving over of some sovereignty to a foreign power, i.e. the Pope in Rome. Once that had gone under Henry VIII, he had obviously split from Rome. The idea of giving back any kind of power to a foreign person, place, just wasn't entity, just wasn't going to be entertained. Yeah, maybe for me right now, replacing a polyester lining of a coat with a linen lining, nice, for a client. Oh, you do clothing. Everything that is new is better. Pfft, think again, Victorians. Indeedy. Yeah, we think we're so modern being better, or this idea of progressiveness and progress always being for the better. I think that's always told to you by people who want you to want the next thing, people who are creating technology, people who are creating new things. It's just something to be, I don't know, I find it fascinating because we clearly all keep going what we want to say as forward, but there's plenty we can learn from the past. And I don't understand the not wanting to go backwards thing, like as if backwards is so terrible when it's just why can't we learn from the past? I don't know. So we are beginning to run out of time, so I haven't done the Rizzio murder and I haven't done Henry VIII's jousting accident. So I'll do Henry VIII's jousting accident, but Rizzio's murder. So David Rizzio was murdered this week. Or maybe I can quickly do them. Shall I try and quickly do the two? Let me just see. Caroline. Was not the high education of Mary and Elizabeth due to Catherine of Aragon's influence at the time in Spain? Weren't women allowed to purchase land on their own? I don't think they were allowed to purchase land on their own, but no, there were lots of girls who were being highly educated at that time. It wasn't unusual. Obviously, the higher up the status hierarchy were, probably the better the education, but that's the more time you can dedicate to it, the more resource you can dedicate. Right, so let's quickly do this quickly. I hate doing it quickly, but I have got videos on both of these that I recorded a little while ago, which you can do. Heidi is packing for a long weekend in Mosul. Have a brilliant time. We'll have a good week, and I will be back here the same time next week if you're around, Heidi. So David Rizzio was the private secretary of Mary, Queen of Scots, and he was murdered in front of her. Mary was already heavily pregnant at this point with her second husband's child. Henry Lord Darnley was her husband. He was not a nice man. That's putting it mildly. He was promiscuous. He was a drunk. He was violent. He was jealous. He wanted to be made king when he married Mary. She wouldn't allow that. She seemed to have had it's one of those marry in haste and repent in leisure, I think, examples. I think he probably turned on the charm. This might be something in that film actually that probably does portray this quite well. The film I was saying I didn't really like, but that he put on the charm, and once they were married, though, he wanted to be king. And Mary wasn't going to allow this. She must have clocked on that he wasn't the most suitable candidate, and he had something to do with, although not probably all behind the murder of David Rizzio. The Mary had already. I'm cutting a very long story short here, but hopefully this will do the same as historical drama and prick your interest to go and look up some more facts. She had been overseeing the targeting of some of the Protestant lords, and in Scotland at the time, Scotland had gone through a Reformation earlier actually than England. They were becoming of the Reformed religion. Mary comes back as a full-blown Catholic. She's not being tainted by, or tainted, that's not the right word. She's not been influenced at all by the Reformation. And so you've got this straight away, this problem. And plot against Mary, there's all sorts. So you've got this problem with religion, this problem with a queen has come back. They've been fine, thank you. We're all right on our own while you've been absent. She's a woman, but I think that's actually secondary. I don't like to always come back to, oh, she's a woman, so they're dismissed her. No, I think there's other bigger reasons. If she'd have been aligned to them, politically aligned to them in terms of religion, I don't think we would have seen the same sorts of problems. But she was at loggerheads, and there were going to be arrests, and I think there'd been the arrests, and there was going to be the trial of some Protestant lords. Now, yes, Nordic Queen, we could do this all day, you're right. There's so much history. So you've got to, so this is happening all around the same time as Mary is sat with her private secretary, David Rizzio, who had come to court as a musician. Now, you don't go from being a musician to being the private secretary and ear of the Queen without making enemies. And these lords, and whether there was anything in it, persuaded Darnley that Rizzio had too much influence, and he got jealous. He was a jealous sort of person anyway. So Mary is having supper in the Palace of Holyrood House. Now, you can go to the room where she was having supper, which is off her bedchamber, which is also still there and visitable, or it was at least when I went a few years ago. And so they're there. It's Saturday, the 9th of March, 1566, and it's late. And the account actually is of a large group, including Lord Darnley, bursting up through the private stairs, which had led to Darnley's apartments were underneath. And the private stairs, these men rush up, 80 of them. I mean, this was a show of force against the Queen. This was showing the Queen what they could do, how little power she actually had if she didn't do their bidding, or if she tried to go against their bidding. Obviously, having a few of them arrested and put on trial, due to be put on trial, was her trying to show, or was her, I don't know, expressing her authority. And this was a show of, no, you're not going to. Rizzio is possibly just an innocent victim of this show of power that these 80 lords and councillors made. Rizzio is told he's got to leave. He is immediately frightened. He tries to hide behind Mary. He's forcibly dragged away from Mary, and he is stabbed to death. Possibly they started stabbing him before he had actually managed to before he had been made to let go of Mary. Horrendous, horrific, absolutely horrific. And his body is dumped with one dagger left in it, Darnley's dagger. Now, that was just to make sure that Darnley couldn't get out. So this is the Queen's husband, couldn't get out of claiming any involvement in it. So yes, so it's a pretty sad story, and it's the anniversary of that this week, or tomorrow. So yeah, so the 9th of March, 1566. So should I do one last quick one with you? We have run over, but I can do the last story that I was going to do with you. Like I say, if you want to know more about that, there's John Guy's brilliant book about Mary Queen of Scots. I've done a quick video on it, but it's quick. It's pretty much just what I just said. But there's lots of articles and things you can find. So let's do the last one before I wrap up, and I will see you all later on if you're here for History After Dark. It's Henry VIII's jousting accident, not the 1536 one, which you may I've heard about, the one where he's unconscious, not that one. This one, though, this one, this could have been the end of Henry. Absolutely could have been. Maria, where were the Queen's guards before, while he was being stabbed? I imagine with 80 men coming in. Some, I don't know. Some are probably insiders. Some would have been, they either would have run or been overpowered anyway with that many people, I would imagine. That's my guess. Right, let's talk about Henry VIII's jousting accident. So 10th of March, it's 1524. So Henry is 33, and he has decided that we're going to put he's going to put a joust on to show off his new armor that he's designed. So Henry has his own armor and he's going to show it off. So let's have a joust. So they have a joust. Now Henry at this point is his young, athletic self that we were talking about before. And he is participating in the list against his brother-in-law, actually best friend, Charles Brandon, who, as we've already mentioned, the best thing to happen to Charles Brandon was Henry Cavill. Now the convention, as I understand it, is the jouster, the participant, is on his horse and he has to have the visor. Once the visor is down on the jousting helmet, they can't see and they can't hear very well. How they actually did this, I've no idea. But the helmet gets the visor is up. They get on the horse. The visor is put down. At that point, they are handed the lance. At that point, at the other end, you have another jouster. So at one end, you've got Henry VIII in this instance, and the other end, you have Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk. When the lance is given, the person, I think at this point it was the Lord Marquis of Dorset. I'm not sure which one was serving which one. The Earl of Surrey was serving the other one. They would have seen the lance be given to the other person. Then that is the point where they know the other person is ready to go. Now, on this particular occasion, for some reason, Henry VIII's visor was left up, but he was given his lance. So there is actually I keep looking down because there is an account written down by Edward Hall, who is a chronicler, of what happened. Now it goes on about the Duke of Suffolk, saying that he doesn't see the king. I don't know how much this is made up after the fact. Because the Duke says, "I see him not. On my faith, or my headpiece takes from me my sight." Now, that's what you're going to say after the fact when what happens next happens. But the king has been given his lance, or spear as it's called here, but this lance. And that is the point. So the Duke of Suffolk is told the king is the king is about to start. So that's what he needs to do as well. So they charge forward. The Duke of Suffolk, he's all fully armored, his visor's down, and starts off. Now, jousting, if you've ever seen it in real life, just the power, the speed that these horses go at, the size of the lances. It's really quite an incredible spectacle. And I have a little video again on YouTube about this. Thank you, Katie, for the badge. Thank you, everyone on Instagram, by the way, and who supports me with badges. And thank you, everyone on Facebook with stars and YouTube with super chats, and all of you who are patrons. It honestly, it helps massively because there's a lot of time, travel, equipment, etc., that goes into doing all of this sort of work. So all your support is hugely it's fantastic. Thank you very much. It's hugely welcome and required, actually, to be fair. So yeah, so they run at the list. They run at the so they start off on their horses. People are shouting. What do they say? They're shouting, "Hold, hold," because they can see that the king's face is what they call naked. The visor is up, his face is exposed, but Brandon's just, he's going for it because he can't see, he can't hear, he can just focus on what he is doing. And so they start off and they're going towards each other, and the lance of Charles Brandon actually makes contact with the king. It makes contact with the king on the underside of, this is how I understand it from the description, of his helmet. Thank you, Living an Eclectic Life, for my badges. Thank you so much. So the visor is up and it's caught on the hinges and it splinters. Now, I was going to look up just to make sure I had the right person before I came on, but I didn't have time. This type of accident happens at the French court. Catherine de Medici's husband, Henry II, has a similar accident, and the shards of the lance, because again, if you watch my other video on YouTube, I managed to capture a lance splitting. So you have massive splinters. And in Henry II, I'm saying Henry II, I hope I've got that right. But Catherine de Medici's husband, the splinters go into his eye. And somehow, when Henry VIII has this accident, none of the shards go into his eye or his face. I mean, he is bleeding. He's bleeding and he's knocked from his horse, but he is otherwise, and I'm going to say this cautiously, otherwise uninjured. Duke of Suffolk, Charles Brandon, for his part, runs over and vows never to run against the king in a joust again. At this point, you have to remember, Henry has no heir. He's 33. So Catherine, his wife, would have been older than that. I'm not quite sure how many years older. I think, was she 6 years older than him? Something like that. So she's getting to her late 30s. They still have no male heir. And the king very, very nearly died. So Charles Brandon is like, nope, I'm not running in the lists against the king again. The king, for his part, says he doesn't blame anybody, which is amazing, isn't it? You think Henry VIII would be blaming everybody else. Apparently he blames nobody. And he decides to run 6 more jousts. He jousts 6 more times that day to prove he's okay, he's fine. Now, I would imagine any of you who've had a whiplash injury, I mean, so you just go imagine, I mean, I've got a massive problem with my neck from a whiplash injury that happened 22 years ago. Now, people talk about head injury. I think there could have been potentially a lot more going on with Henry. His head is going to have been cracked back as far as it will go in the armor. He's been hit on the head. He's fallen off his horse, and it could have been not just serious. It could have been the death of the king. And where would the Tudors have been at that point? That's an interesting scenario to contemplate if Henry had indeed died at the joust in March 1525. So in 24, excuse me, in 1524. So and that's an anniversary that happened this week as well. I thought you might like that one. It's interesting to think though. So if Henry had gone then, I'm not sure when the Duke of Buckingham had long gone by then. Yeah, what would have happened? So everybody, I will leave you there for now. We are back, or I am back on my own this time next week, or 1 o'clock next week, for History Chat. for Tea Time History Chat. I'm back tonight for History After Dark with the girls, Katrina Marchant and Catherine Brooks. We're doing a roundup of deceased gits. So we're back at 8:15 tonight. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for going long. Colleen says, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. If you have enjoyed this episode and you're not already subscribed to me on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, then please do and do things like get the notifications and all that kind of thing, because that is really useful, and it shows the algorithm that you like what you're hearing, and it shows it to other people, and then hopefully we can get more people involved as well. So that would be awesome. I will add some links in the show notes to some of the things that I've spoken about today. But for now, I will leave you to your day. Hopefully I'll see you tonight on History After Dark, and take care, everybody. Right, see you soon. Bye-bye.